Hey guys, Jake from 8020 Media here. Today I'm doing a video on how to change the oil in your BMW. Right here we've got our B48, but this is going to be more of a generic video talking about the different steps, just since changing your oil is very similar in any modern direct injected BMW. So first off, let's go ahead and talk about the things that we need. First, you need your oil. We only use Liqui-Moly. This stuff is straight from Germany. It's the best oil out there for these BMWs. It's what I recommend. If you're not using Liqui-Moly, get the BMW oil. Please don't go buy the super cheap like STP oil from AutoZone or something like that. Make sure you're using good high quality oil, so stick to Liqui-Moly or what the BMW dealership will sell you. Outside of that, we're going to need an oil filter. These oil filters for BMWs look a little bit different than they do on some other traditional vehicles where they tend to look like more of a can. And that's because really any modern BMW uses an oil filter housing. And so the filter sits within the oil filter housing rather than being an external filter that hangs off the bottom of the engine. These are actually located on the top side of the engine. And then of course this is a BMW, so we've got a couple specialty tools here as well. First of all, you're going to need to get your BMW in the air. To do that, you're going to need a jack and jack stands. If you're going to jack it up and use jack stands, you need a jack pad adapter. This is a BMW specific thing. Without a jack pad adapter, you're going to crush your jack pad points underneath the car. If you don't have a jack or a jack stand, that's very expensive to go and buy. The next best alternative is getting yourself some Rhino ramps that you can just drive your car up onto to give you a little bit of extra clearance underneath. I think these things are about 60 or 70 bucks. These are genuine Rhino ramps, which is one of the higher quality brands out there. There probably are some cheaper options on Amazon, but I'm not going to climb underneath a car with some knockoff ramps, so get yourself a good quality set of ramps if you're going to do it that way. That's certainly the cheaper option if you don't have a jack and jack stands. Specific to actually changing the oil filter, you are going to need a special tool to remove the oil filter housing on some BMWs. If we come and look at our N54 that's over here, the oil filter housing is right here and has this massive oil filter housing cap on it. You can't get it off with your hand. The only way to get it off is with a special oil filter housing removal tool that sits on top of it. You attach your wrench into there and to take it off. BMW did get a little bit more favorable in some of the later model cars. So if we come and look at this one here, this one is a little bit harder to access. It's a little bit further back in here, but you should see that this actually does have a little point on top that you can connect a socket to pull it off. And so you don't need a special tool, you just need a socket. You do need a really big socket. This requires a 27 millimeter socket. So if you don't have a 27 millimeter socket, you'll need to go and buy one. Outside of that, we've got a 17 millimeter socket to remove the oil drain pan on the bottom. And then the last thing that you're gonna need is an oil catch pan right here. These things are probably like $12 to $15 at AutoZone. Changing the oil on a BMW is probably one of the more expensive oil changes that you can do, especially when you use high quality oils like this. From time to time, the BMW dealerships will offer like a $99 oil change, and if they do, that's actually not a bad deal, because just the cost of oil alone for this and an oil filter, it's probably going to cost about $60 to $70 for me to just DIY this. So if you factor in not having some of these specialty tools, a $99 oil change really isn't that bad of a deal, just because the oil on these alone is probably going to run you 60 to 70 bucks. Anyways, that's it for what we need here. Get your BMW in the air, and from there we're ready to go ahead and climb underneath it and loosen the oil drain bolt to get all of the oil flowing out. Somewhere on kind of the back half of the engine, right around the end of the wheels or the back side of the wheels, you will see an oil pan drain bolt. So this is a 17 millimeter bolt down here. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen that and let the oil start draining out of it. Now that pretty much all the oil has drained out from there, we're going to go ahead and come to the top and remove the oil filter. Now, one thing that I didn't mention, because this car didn't have it on there, but that I know we definitely have on our 135 and 335, is sometimes there's a little bit of like a trap door or a cover that covers the oil pan bolt, and so you will need to use a flathead screwdriver to twist the little locking mechanism on it, and then that's going to drop a little door down that'll give you access to the oil pan bolt. But anyways, let's come on over here to the top side of the engine where the oil filter is. and we're gonna go ahead and remove that. Make sure you got a towel close since some oil will come dripping out once we pull it out. So here it is down here. There we go. Okay, get that fully loosened. I'm gonna let it sit just for a second in case there's any oil that's built up in there that hasn't fully drained out yet. Okay, and then you should be able to pull out the oil filter housing here, and then we can grab the oil filter itself. It will require a little bit of force to get the oil filter out of there. It is obviously oily, and so not a bad idea to grab it with a towel. Okay. Clean up the little oil drips there. So along with your new oil filter, you're gonna get a gasket and you're gonna get an O-ring. This O-ring is for your oil drain plug. These are technically crush washers, so once you use them once, you're technically not supposed to use them again. So you get a spare one of those. We're gonna go ahead and put that onto our oil pan drain bolt right there. And then the O-ring that's right here is for the oil filter housing. So around the housing, you've got an O-ring that's right in there. So we're gonna use a flathead screwdriver to pop that O-ring off and put the new one on, just like that. And now we're ready for the new filter to go back in. So now it goes in this way. You'll see a little O-ring that's on this right here. So this does actually plug into a specific spot within the oil filter housing. So we'll need to make sure that we get it oriented in there properly. It's not like this on the N54. This little piece actually sits on the oil filter housing, so you do have to pop that little O-ring off and replace the little O-ring which comes with the N54 oil filter kit. But this one is integrated into the filter. So now we are going to come back here. We're just gonna go ahead and take a look at the orientation of the way that it plugs in, and then we're gonna feed it on down there and pop it into place. Just like that. Now that we've got it in place, we can go ahead and reinstall the oil filter housing back in there. The oil filter does clip into the housing as well, and so you can put the filter and the housing in together at the same time. I think it's a little bit easier to find the hole and make sure it connects in when you put the filter in first, but whichever way you'd like to do it. Go ahead and tighten it down. Okay, from here, we're gonna go ahead and climb back underneath the vehicle and reinstall the oil pan drain bolt. You definitely wanna make sure that you do this before you go pouring fresh oil into the engine. All right, just like that, we are done with everything except filling the oil back into the car. Make sure you check how much oil your car uses. Also make sure you check what the recommended spec is on it. But from here, filling it up with oil is pretty easy. Pretty much every BMW has its oil filler cap directly on the top of the engine, right here near the intake manifold to the left of it. And so we're gonna go ahead and pull that off and fill our new oil in here. Now, you might wanna use a funnel to pour it in there. That certainly makes it a little bit easier, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go for the straight pour and see how good the accuracy is on this one. As I'm pouring this, one other general note is that you definitely want to do your oil change when your engine has been cooled down. So you don't want to do it immediately after driving it for a while. Main reason being, when you take that oil drain pan bolt off on the bottom, you're going to get some oil on your hands. And so if you try to change your oil directly after driving it, you're going to be splashing oil that is 250 degrees onto your hand, and it is not going to feel very good. So as I pour oil in here, one thing that's a good thing to do, we want to make sure we don't see any oil coming down or dripping from the oil pan drain bolt down there. So as long as we don't see any visible leaks down there as we're pouring this in, we're just going to continue filling her up. Okay. Just like that, we've got 5 quarts. We're gonna need to crack open a second, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill 1.5 quarts into here. From here, the only thing I'm gonna need to do is put my oil filler cap back on there. I'm gonna put the engine cover back on it, take her off the ramps, and she's good to go. That's about all there is to it on an oil change on a BMW. There are some small quirky things depending on whether you need a specialty tool or just a really large socket. But for the most part, the process for doing this is exactly the same on any BMW. The only things that differ is really just the location of where your oil filter's at. If you guys appreciate this video, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for our future BMW content.